Greetings, all, and welcome back to Tachyon Transmissions. This is the podcast that is about all things Star Trek and science fiction. I am, of course, your host, Byron Lafayette, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jordan Morris. And today we are going to be discussing Strange New Worlds, Season 3, Episode 7, which is titled, What is Starfleet? This is a very interesting episode. Jordan and I both have some strong feelings on this, both positive and negative. So I think this is going to be a very interesting and fun conversation as we delve into it. But before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast so that you are notified of any drop that comes. Because even though our journey through Season 3 of Strange New Worlds is coming to an end very soon, this podcast is going to be continuing with all things Star Trek and science fiction, exploring other IPs, and also just following all of the news and theories for Star Trek as it comes along, because we are really, I think, beginning to enter a brave new world of Star Trek with this merger that happened. I think we're going to be getting a lot of news very soon. So definitely stay tuned. But as we get started here, Jordan, would you like to introduce our B plot for this episode?
I am very excited to introduce this week's B plot of our episode. So, for those of you who aren't gamers, the big Gamescom convention has been over the last few days, and surprisingly, we got not one but two Star Trek game announcements. I feel like it's 1998 again with, two announcements in less than 24 hours, and we've had, 3 games in 12 years? I will absolutely take this. The first is a VR-only title. Currently, I believe it's for Oculus and MetaQuest, or what it's going to be available on. Hoping for some console and PC ports, so Byron and I can play it. It's called Star Trek Infection, and it is set aboard a Defiant class vessel, and it basically looks like Star Trek meets Resident Evil. There's some sort of infection. You play as a Vulcan named Lieutenant Ferrak, and it shows you can give your nerve pinch people, and you can actually follow like the nerves and sense like the different effects your nerve pinches have. It looks kind of wild, and then there's some hallucinations and some interesting looking like flora, and almost looks like mushrooms and like mold or something. It's very Resident Evil-esque. And I think you're trying to stop whatever this pervasive alien infection is before you succumb to it. That's about all we have on that one. Interesting looking game. VR can be hit or miss. A little bit of VR goes a long way. I don't know your experience with the Byron, but I get about an hour in and I start to get nauseous.
I'm the same way. Like, I remember I played some of Vader Immortal, I remember, and really enjoyed it. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's, you can't for me personally, I can't play for very long before I start to feel the effects.
Yeah, and if you're in like a VR arcade and it's properly like set up and screwed into the wall, like some of these at-home ones, when the first new Star Wars Battlefront came out, I played the free X-Wing mission, and I am relatively tall, and I started flying around the mission, and I realized my head was outside of the X-Wing cockpit because I was taller than what they were expecting. That's an interesting way to fly an X-Wing with your head outside the cockpit. So I felt like in Star Wars. But anyways, the second, and I will say probably the more exciting of the two announcements, is there is a new Voyager game, I guess for the 30th anniversary. What's really funny is there was no speculation that I saw online for either of these games. So, like, they definitely kept this close, like super close to the vest. Anyways, the second one is a Voyager game called Across the Unknown. And basically, you get to replay the events of Voyager, but you get to make all the decisions. It looks sort of almost like a strategy survival game. I was talking to my parents, and my dad's like, kind of reminds me of a modern version of Star Trek meets the Oregon Trail. And I'm like, wow, that actually makes a ton of sense. I would have never thought of it that way. But you get to, there's resource allocation. There's you've got to obviously find resources because that wasn't in some of the early episodes of Voyager that was discussed, but not so much later on. And there's different missions throughout each sector, and I did notice some of them were episode titles from Voyager. And if you choose to play things that differently, certain crew members can die, or you can definitely change things. Maybe, can you get Voyager home faster? Do you get Voyager home at all? And the real important question, Byron, can we save Tuvix?
Yeah. Honestly, that is the question, and this game might just fail out the door if we are not able to save him.
Though I know there's going to be a section of our audience that just kills him out of spite.
Yeah, yes. That
Which,
just, the debate's going to just be starting, and they're just going to hit the button.
You finally can answer the question: how to play this the right way, the wrong way, or the Jane way?
Yeah. Oh, I am very excited for this game because one, I'm just excited when any Star Trek game is announced, just because, like you said, we've been in such a Sahara Desert drought of Star Trek content for gaming lately that this is a very interesting idea. Survival games are really popular right now, and so I think that a Voyager style survival strategy game, I think, just makes a lot of sense. And I think if it's made properly, this could be a really good game, a really classic game, I think.
Oh, absolutely. This could be a boon for Star Trek gaming, I think. Not that the other ones can't be, but like they were more niche games. This seems like a game that, whether you're a Trek fan or not, you can just pick it up and play it and enjoy it.
Absolutely, yeah, because that's what I would like to see more of with Star Trek, because like you said, a lot of the games have felt a bit more niche, and I would like to see Star Trek really come out the gate with successful games so that we can see more of them, honestly, because I think that is it, what's that one game's name? Is it Fleet Command, the mobile game?
Yes.
Yes. That one, even though I'm not a huge fan of mobile gaming, it really has reinvigorated a lot of attention on Star Trek video games with it being so popular, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, I mean, I would love to start seeing more. I think the VR survival horror is a really great idea for Star Trek. And, and I hope it's good. And like you said, I hope there's a PC port, so that, so that I can play it soon. But the real question though, is when are we going to be getting a remaster for Elite Force?
It sounds like you've been talking to my brother, because that's literally the exact question he asked me. Oh my God, if we got a 4K port of Elite Force, oh, shut up and take my money. I mean, geez.
Oh, it would be an instant purchase for me.
Oh,
I
would get on there and pre-order it. I don't even care if it's 2 years out. Shoot.
Oh, same. Yeah. Like that, when I played that game in high school, I just played it to death, and it was just so much fun. I loved the multiplayer was awesome. And do you remember how with the one multiplayer where you could play against the AI bots and you could literally have all of the main characters, you could blow away Janeway. It's it was just,
and then you had the actual effects of them getting vaporized, and the most underrated feature, honestly, I'm not sure if it's been on any other games, but instead of having a scope on your weapons, you had a DBZ style scouter eyepiece, so you could snipe with every weapon. It was freaking brilliant, and it never gets enough, in my opinion.
I completely agree. Yeah, that I remember how awesome that was, and just the Borg weapons, it was awesome. I really need to do a playthrough of it again, just because it was such a fun game. But yeah, I mean, things are looking very bright, I think, with Star Trek gaming. So I'm definitely going to be picking up the Voyager survival game when that comes out. Do we have a release date for it yet, or is it still in development?
I don't recall seeing a release date. I do know it's a multi-platform release, so you're getting PlayStation, Xbox, Steam. I'm not sure if Switch is on there. According to Steam, it does not have a release date yet.
Okay.
You can pre-order it on Steam, but we no date yet.
Okay. I'm assuming there probably will be a switch port at some point, but that probably is going to be later down the line. So, um, very fascinating, very exciting. Well, we'll keep you all up to date on any Star Trek gaming news that comes up, and when we get any release dates for these two upcoming games, and for the ever elusive 4K remaster of Elite Force. Well, Jordan, we have an interesting episode here to talk about. You know, this is Star Trek Strange New World Season 3, Episode 7, What is Starfleet? This particular episode is very interesting, I found, because it is filmed in a documentary style, which, for those who have been following along and watching the show, you have Betto Ortegas is been tagging along with the Enterprise, working on a documentary on Starfleet and on the Enterprise. So we've been seeing him filming content. We've been seeing him, interviewing, talking to people. And I honestly always kind of wondered where the story was going. I wasn't sure if we were going to get a documentary style episode or what. But lo and behold, this episode was his documentary. So, so Jordan, what are your initial thoughts on this episode? What were your thoughts going into it, and what did you feel at the end?
So the concept of a documentary episode is actually fascinating, and it's a really great concept. You and I were talking offline. The problem with the ideas are great in this episode. The execution is particularly atrocious, in my opinion. The first things first, Betto Ortegas needs to get his butt thrown in the brig. I mean, oh my God, like, I think there's more shaky cam in this than there is in the Blair Witch project. I'm like, it's the 23rd century. Can you not put a gyroscopic stabilizer on your film drone? For the love of God. Like, I'm like, but like, I mean, there's way too many like super close zoom ups. Like Rebecca Romaine is a beautiful woman, but I don't need to see up her nostrils. You don't need that close. Like, it's like, and like, I'm not even going to really. There's been a massive debate online when they talk about being on the Enterprise and they list the specs for the Enterprise and they don't match. The Enterprise is twice the size it's supposed to be in canon, so I'm not going to go down that unless you would like to be. But Reddit was having a full-on meltdown about that, and is this a separate timeline? We don't have to get into all that, but that was a whole nother slew of problems with this episode that it seems the fandom has had. But other than the horrible camera work, which drove me crazy, I felt like this episode treats our characters like they're stupid. There's that one scene where Betto is filming in the ready room like he doesn't want number one and Pike to know they're there. Number one and Pike, that's stupid. They absolutely knew he was there. And like, they would not have let him stand there on the you never treat your audience like they're stupid, and I sort of felt like this episode treated us and our characters like we were stupid. Like, Pike and them, they're not going to, if you're on a secure channel with Admiral April, you're not going to have Joe Schmo in there filming it. And like, oh, well, we redacted the conversation. No, like, you do that. They're confiscating your whole film and your butt's going in the brig. Like, come on.
I completely agree with you. And I think that this just further reinforces the idea that we talked about in the episode of Through the Lens of Time, that should have been the documentary episode, the found footage documentary episode, of him going along on an away mission that goes sideways, whatever, and it's all filmed. It's not necessarily redacted. It's not dealing with very touchy diplomacy between races and different nation states with the Federation. Like, it's not dealing with anything like that, so it would have worked. Because I agree with you. Like, that particular shot was egregious, like you said, because I was like, how do they not know he's there? And if they do know he's there, why would they let him be there? And and then it's like, the the scene where he's sitting with Uhura and he's talking to her, and then she acts suddenly completely horrified, that he's filming her when he's been filming her for multiple episodes, and then I don't think they ever go back to her being that angry with him again, necessarily. A little bit at the end, but not all that much, it just was weird.
It- he's trying to basically, he's not trying to gain a perspective. He's trying to push an agenda, which has been a problem in modern Trek. Well, and he was coercing the officers and trying to rage bait them. Also, total dick move where Ahura doesn't realize her friend was on the Cayuga and has passed away, and he totally like dropped a bomb on her. Like, he knew her friend was on there and he knew her friend had passed, and he literally like just dropped a bomb on her. Like,
That
I'm like,
was
okay,
so
like this
bad.
girl and you're gonna do that and you don't expect her to like dump you on the spot? Like, ooh.
That was absolutely brutal. Yeah, like I felt like, and this has been an issue with this season a lot, is that they will attempt to tackle these interesting ideas, but then it seems like they get too scared to follow them through. Because I feel like, Betto Ortegas could have actually been a very interesting villain character that, we really like him, kind of in the first few episodes. He has this kind of cute relationship with Uhura. He's Ortegas's brother. We have this kind of relationship with him. And then kind of maybe showcasing him as kind of this more immoral, filmmaker who has an axe to grind with Starfleet, who basically, maybe it reveals he was just with Ahura to get more information, and he was trying to make Starfleet look terrible, and maybe just really develop that idea and showcase the fallout with Ortegas on the ship, with Pike, and with everything. I think that could have been so interesting to investigate.
Oh yeah, almost akin to I don't know if you finished Voyager, but there's a season seven episode where the Doctor writes a hollow novel, and he uses the likeness of the Voyager characters, and it's a dramatization of how he felt, and how he felt. He was a hologram. He wasn't treated like a person, but it's taken literally. Like, Voyager crew are awful because the publisher says he's not a real person and doesn't own his work and publishes it anyway. And he's like, the Doctor gets upset, that no one's supporting him, but he just basically threw all his friends under the bus, and the fallout from that. They could have played that off in this episode, and instead Beto just craps on everyone, and it's kind of glossed over.
Mhm.
The other thing. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Uh-huh. Oh, no, I was just going to agree with you. Uh-huh.
The other thing you and I had discussed. This feels like two episodes that just got smashed into each other head on. Um, the whole mission they're on, it's some, I can't even remember the name of the aliens. Basically, there's a war between non-Federation member worlds. Which, why is Starfleet involved? Okay, the whole Prime Directive is non-interference, so okay, there's got to be some strategic advantage for Starfleet to be involved in a non-Federation world's war. You know, which is a massive issue in and of itself, right there. But basically, these aliens have, for lack of a better word, they caught space Mothra, and like genetically modified it to be aggressive to use as a weapon in their war. And the Enterprise is supposed to tow it back to their homeworld to defend it, and hijinks ensue. It has a mind of its own and asks the Enterprise to help euthanize it, which, all for a space kaiju episode, down for that. Really cool visuals. There was absolutely no time to flesh that out, and they just sort of threw, albeit quite weakly, like at the wall, and didn't particularly stick very well. What are your thoughts about that?
I completely agree. Like I was very on board for a space kaiju Star Trek episode. Like, and the visuals for Space Mothra were awesome. Like it was a really cool looking alien. Um and this whole idea of it existing on a water world, and all this stuff was very, very interesting. And as you said, there was all of these kernels of very interesting moral dilemmas in this story, because you have this, like you said, this space Mothra has been experimented on, where it can only be aggressive. It feels anger, rage, wanting to kill, basically. And then you also get this very interesting kernel where you out that these two planets that are fighting each other, basically, one of the planet has suffered 9 million casualties. Okay, so a lot. The other planet has suffered 119,000 casualties. So automatically, when you see those numbers, you feel like something's not right here. Like this isn't a fair war. There's something going on between these two peoples. And you get a hint of that's why they're using this space Mothra, that it's a way for the people that have lost 9 million to even the scales, basically, a little bit. But again, none of this is fleshed out. Like none of these moral quandaries are fleshed out, even to the idea here of like, the idea that this creature is, been genetically modified. And there's also the ethics of, well, this creature's not in its right mind. Is it ethical for us to help kill it, with this value that Starfleet is placed on life? Like, is that, is that a moral decision or not? Does the creature have its own free will anymore? Like, I feel like there was a fantastic philosophical episode about space ethics here that was completely glossed over, and it made me really mad because it felt like a classic TNG episode that we could have gotten.
Oh, easily. Like what we both just described is probably a quadrilogy of really good Star Trek books, at least. Like you could easily make that an ongoing series of books and a multi-episode arc, and somehow they squeezed this all into like 52 minutes. Like it was so like I'm like, what are you doing? This is, and I it wasn't particularly clear, but it almost seemed, and maybe I read this somewhere, that the aliens that's had 9 million casualties and basically were messing with Space Mothra, because I cannot remember the name of the creature. I apologize.
I think it was the Jakuri. Was it Jakuri? I can't remember if that was
Jakaru. Is it Jakaru? Something.
It
starts with a J. But it seemed like they were the ones who started the war.
Yeah, they seem to be more of the villains.
Yeah, so it's like there was too many unresolved plot threads. There's too many like this could have been. It almost felt like whoever wrote this had like ADD, and they started all these ideas and they couldn't connect the dots and couldn't finish anything, and then they just filmed whatever mess of a script they had.
It was so messy, because like just the idea of feeling that they had to include this episode within an episode thing. Like, I feel like it would have been better to just have, if they wanted to do this as a documentary episode, do the documentary episode and maybe just have flashbacks to maybe several different away missions that they were on, that they interviewed on, that weren't full stories, but maybe, I don't know. Like, I feel like that, or even like, this could have even been like a version of a clip show almost, where they could have maybe had him interviewing the characters after certain episodes that we'd already seen. That could have been really interesting. Like, can you imagine maybe, he's interviewing Dr. Mbenga after the incidents of Through the Lens of Time? That could have been so interesting.
Oh yeah, that's a much better. At this point, they should hire us to write some scripts. I mean, honestly,
it shouldn't be this hard to do this. And okay, so I had looked at the runtime of this episode from the beginning. So the full episode was 41 minutes. But then I calculated it and I looked at when the episode ended and the credits began. This episode was 37 minutes long.
Is that
And
it?
that was it. Yeah. And there was
Wow.
so much going on. Like you said, for 37 minutes, way too much.
That's way too much for like a full, 55 minutes, let alone 37. Like, what are you?
Oh. Mhm. It was just like I almost felt like, and this is not any secret information or anything. This is just my own personal opinion. But it almost felt like maybe they had written the script for this episode as just a full documentary interview episode, and either Kurtzman or someone at Paramount said this isn't exciting enough. You have to put a B plot of some type of mission in there to make it exciting, and then they just hurriedly wrote the space kaiju part to put it in there, because the space kaiju thing didn't really blend with the documentary episode at all. It felt disconnected.
Not at all. Completely disconnected. Yes.
So that almost made me wonder if maybe it was added to the script at the last minute. Maybe, I don't know.
That's a really interesting point. I hadn't considered that, but I could actually see that being 100% true.
Yeah, and it just, like I said, it made me mad because like I wanted to like this episode because there was so much in it that I did like, it was like, I guess the best example I can feel like was, it felt like somebody had put a plate of ribs down in front of me and I grabbed a rib and ate it and it was absolutely delicious. And I went to reach for another one and they pulled the plate away and ran off with it.
Well, that's just cruel and unusual punishment, first off.
Yes. And that's what it felt like, because I kept getting all these very interesting ideas that I wanted to see more of, and then they were just being pulled away from me and I was moved on to the next uninteresting plot point. And I hate to be this negative about a Star Trek episode, honestly.
Yeah, because you and I both love Star Trek and we're pretty forgiving, but I hate to say, and I actually think we're being pretty generous, but like, I think when we get to our ratings for this week, we're gonna metaphorically drop the hammer.
Oh, I completely agree. I guess, like, was there anything in it redeeming that you felt was positive, that you liked, that you thought like, oh, this isn't too bad, this is good?
The water planet and like the whole space kaiju idea, it was really cool looking, very visually arresting. Just the whole concept, I'm like, that was a pleasant surprise, even though it didn't fit. The idea itself was great. I enjoyed that. I love Godzilla movies. I love kaiju movies. I grew up on them. So that definitely appeals to me. But other than that, maybe they'll kill Betto in a future episode. That would kind of redeem this for me.
Oh, I would like to see that very much, because yeah, this episode did him no favors. It did not showcase him as a master filmmaker. Showed him as manipulative, but also not really that good at his manipulativeness either.
So he's just
he's just not good, unfortunately. And I don't know what this is, okay, but what in the world is this new style of filming where the camera is just up in your face? Like, I don't know what this is. Like, we saw it in Superman, we saw it now in this episode, we saw it in the Flash movie. I feel like we're seeing in all these movies where just the camera is right up in the face, and I don't get it.
I don't know if they're trying to cut down on CGI cost or they're just trying to stretch runtimes, but like, I don't need to see everyone's pores. I don't need to see Superman's pores. I don't need to see number one's pores. I don't need to no. It's completely unnecessary.
I agree. There was that shot of Pike where I don't think they could have zoomed in any further. It was like,
no, I mean, they would have been in his skull had they zoomed in any further.
Yes, like the only scene that I think was possibly zoomed in further than that shot of Pike was in at World's End with Pirates when they showed the close up of Johnny Depp's nose. I think that was the only shot I can think of that was zoomed in more. Oh, yeah, it's just unfortunate. Kind of piggybacking on what you said, I agree. Like the visuals for the kaiju were awesome. The water planet was awesome looking. And I think the kind of documentary film style of the planet with the kaiju was great. I did really enjoy that. The design of the aliens that had kind of like that had kind of created it, I kind of liked that. I thought it was a little interesting. It wasn't there was a little bit of creativeness there, so I was okay there.
Good point. I'd forgotten about that, but yeah, you're spot on there.
So there was a couple like visual. I think this episode definitely its strength was its visuals. Like it had some great visuals with that particular storyline. But yeah, honestly, like kind of thinking back, I mean, that's really I think the only kind of positive thing I can say there. Yeah, that's really the only positive thing I think I can give. Because like I said, I hate ragging on it, but the other thing that I want to give that kind of rags on it a bit is that in the beginning, we got the credits, for the documentary playing, and I was expecting at the end to get the credits for the documentary as well, when they were showing like the sun. But then we got the normal credits for the show, and I was very confused.
Yeah, I was too. That was like, it was a very odd choice.
Yes. It was definitely, it was odd. So, oh man, hurts me definitely to say that, but so I guess final thoughts, I guess, on this particular episode. And also, are you at all worried about next week's episode, which is the comedy episode?
So great questions. First off, I do have some final thoughts, but I'm going to give my thoughts on next week's first.
Okay.
So next week is 4.5 Vulcans, which ironically, they seem to do better with the comedy episodes than they do the serious episodes. I did find out today Patton Oswalt will be guest starring this week as a Vulcan named Doug, which I find very confusing. That again, I don't mind the comedy episodes. That seems kind of stupid, but I'm going to hold judgment until I watch the episode. Maybe his parents were stationed on Earth at the Vulcan embassy, so maybe that's why they named him Doug. But a Vulcan named Doug seems kind of stupid. As far as my final thoughts for this one, actually more in season 3 as a whole. Byron, I think you'll definitely agree. This season has been a letdown. I hate to say it, but compared to the first two, this has been a letdown. Where I feel like the makeup, costume design, production design has all, I mean, they're knocking it out of the park. The writing staff is sucking a fat one, to be quite honest and not be vulgar. Part of that, I wonder, and I'm not going to speak on any of the allegations he made, but Bo DeMayo was on the writing staff for season 1, and I'm not 100% sure if he contributed to season 2. For those who aren't familiar, Bo DeMayo was also the head writer on the absolutely brilliant X-Men 97. Absolutely highly recommend watching that. There was some controversy that came out about him, and he was fired from this, and he's not been working on Strange New Worlds. But whatever he did, again, not going into it, honestly, not even sure the full extent of it, his talents, I think, are absolutely missed. I don't know if it's some of the new writers or maybe they just don't have someone to bounce ideas off of, but we're getting to the point, I feel like it's almost like an Enterprise when they had to bring Manny Cotto in season 4, and that fresh minds, fresh ideas, fresh blood really helped that show. The ideas for the show are good, but we need somebody else to really refine them, I think. Again, I hate to speak ill of any of them, but they can do better. We all know they can do better, and we expect more. So, you have any thoughts on that?
That is a really good point. I was not I was not aware that he actually was part of the writing team for season 1 and possibly season 2. That would explain a lot of issues with this season, because, I'm not terribly familiar either with any of the allegations or anything that happened with him. I haven't really been following it. But I think his talents as a writer and as a creative are without question. And so, because I mean, like you said, X-Men 97 was probably one of the most beloved Marvel projects that has been done in the last 10 years.
Oh, for
So,
sure.
so him being absent from Strange New Worlds and us seeing a dip in quality of the writing does kind of make sense. What is interesting, and I, because I've been chatting with a lot of creatives for this one TV show, Jericho, because I've been writing a book on it. And the interesting thing that I've kind of been, I've been learning a lot about the TV writing process, because a lot of the people I've talked to have been writers. And it's very interesting that, even though you have certain writers whose names are on those scripts have been touched by a lot of other people, in the writing room. And there's people who do rewrites on it. There's people who add suggestions to it, all these different things. And so you end up getting a hopefully better product by the time, that script is shot. And, and it makes me wonder if maybe Bo was instrumental in maybe being one of those rewriters, who maybe went in and almost, they call them like script doctors.
Script doctors, yep.
Yeah, that he went in and was fixing maybe a lot of the Strange New World script issues. Or maybe, he was the one saying, hey, you know what? It doesn't make sense that these aliens are humans in this episode. We need to change that, or whatever. So that's very fascinating of an idea that I think makes a lot of sense. Because, like you said, visually, set design, costume design, I would even say like creation of stories have been very good this season. It's just been the execution of all of them has been really bad. Um, you know, uh, and as you said, like, our negativity, isn't coming from a place of hate, of us wanting the show to fail or anything. If anything, it's coming from a position of love because we love this show so much and we know how good it can be and we want them to get back to that point again. I hope, like you said, maybe they bring some new writers in or some new people to kind of help with season 4 and 5 so that they can right the ship a little bit, because we want to see more Star Trek, and we want to see Paul Wesley, return as Kirk, and I would hate to see a drop in audience viewership in season 4 because they didn't like season 3. And I think too, a lot of this kind of comes down to as well, in my opinion, at least, and would be curious to hear your thoughts of this kind of issue of these extra short seasons, that, I was thinking when I was watching this, and then I suddenly realized, I was like, wow, we only have 3 episodes till the end of this season. And I was like, man, if we were watching TNG with its, 22 to 24 episode season, having 4 bad episodes in a row wasn't that big of a deal back then, because we were kind of like, okay, this episode wasn't so good, but we knew, that they could kind of maybe get their feet under them, to be better. And then we would see like, oh, wow, this season was great, because they kind of got their footing, where, when you have 3 poor episodes in a 10 episode season, that means, a third of your season is bad. And that's not good.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Well, I know we'll never get the 22, 25, 26 episode seasons again. And those people were overworked to death. No disagreement there. But it's like, yeah, when, 3 or 4 clunkers out of 25, it's not great, but, okay, nobody bats 1,000. But, 3 clunkers out of 10 is an issue. And like you said, like, part of the issue is too, this show has been so good, and I know you're not a sports person, but I'm gonna throw you a sports analogy. Everybody knows who Tom Brady is. Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowl wins, more than any team in football history. So when this show's basically been like Tom Brady, who's used to winning the Super Bowl every year, the years you don't win the Super Bowl are going to feel like a letdown. And I feel like the bar has been set so high, it is hard to maintain that. So I do cut them some slack, but a lot of this it's dumb stuff. It's not that like they they were on target. They just pulled the trigger a little too quick, or didn't hold their breath. Something
No, I
along those lines. So go
no,
ahead.
I oh no, I absolutely agree with you. And like you said, yeah, we're never getting, the 25 episode, sci-fi season, again. I would love, like, I kind of feel like I think the sweet spot, for me at least, if you're not going to do the 20 episode season, is, go for 13.
Yep. 13 to
If you want,
15.
yeah, 13 to 15 seems to be the perfect spot for you to get your feet to, under you, to, steady your writing, have your characters really develop. It really does work out perfectly. And, so I that is what I feel Star Trek should be aiming at. And, in honesty, we saw that a lot with Discovery. Discovery had on average 13 to 15 episode seasons. And and it made Discovery more bearable through some of those really, dark ages of episodes, that you knew, okay, maybe I'm going to get a couple of good ones in here, and we did get some great ones occasionally.
We did, and it's I prefer the model of okay, premiered in September, run September through November, because you get to the holidays, everything gets crazy for everybody. Then we've got do 7 or 8. If you want to do a 2-episode premiere, give us a mid-season cliffhanger where you can tell an extended story, because I think it's abundantly clear, particularly this season, they want to tell some longer extended stories, because the last 5 weeks we've said, okay, this should have been a 2-parter, or at least been 10 minutes longer. Give us a 2-parter mid-season cliffhanger, and then, or do your 2-parter, let it end, and then it can come back the second week of February, where they can stretch their viewership numbers out longer, because anybody who got, oh, I'm behind, or hey, I'm a sports junkie, I'm watching football, and then, oh, I'm off for Christmas, let me catch up on the 7 or 8 I missed. And as it's cold, I mean, I don't know about you, but when it's cold outside in the winter, I'm much more inclined to watch a ton more TV than I am here in the summer, when I can go outside or crash the beach, So, yeah, I kind of would prefer that model, personally. And I think you're able to flesh out characters and just give more content and develop things a bit more.
Absolutely. And, and like you were saying, maybe that means the sweet spot is 14 episodes. Like you said, you do 7 in the fall, 7 in the spring, and, you keep your audience engaged for longer. You honestly, when you think about it, also with a streaming service, you don't have to deal with churn as much, because you're stretching it way out.
Yep.
And yeah, I completely agree. And I think that another thing too is that a lot of people bring up, oh, they can't afford that with the budgets, with the CGI. I'm perfectly fine with them cutting down on some of the effects. Like, there is a reason that TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, all those are classic shows that people watch. And the thing is, TNG does not have a lot of special effects at times. A lot of their episodes are like, oh wow, they're on the bridge for 10 minutes, and then they're down on a very obvious sound stage with fake ivy on the wall.
Yeah, and they reuse the ship flyby shot every week. Yeah,
Oh,
is it
yes.
corny? Yes, but there's something, I don't know, maybe it's just me. There's something comforting about that to me. You get used to it. At least you get to see the ship. And if they want to throw something else in the background, or swap out the planet they're orbiting, yeah, I mean, Picard season 3 reused the flyby of the Titan, and then they flipped it a couple of times and mirrored it. But like, what? Yeah, it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, it's like you can. I mean, Star Trek 6 and Star Trek Generations, when the bird of prey blows up in both movies, it's the same shot. I knew that when I was 4. I remember the theater. I'm like, oh, that's the same shot from Star Trek 6. And my dad looked at him and was like, oh my God, you're right. I'm like, yeah. Like, and the thing is, at the end of the day, now, if it wasn't annoying, I'm going to use an example from my own personal life. My dad always got annoyed when we were kids, because when we watched Thundercats and the ancient spirits of evil, and it was the same shot of Mumra every time. But they did it to save money. I mean, granted, it's so, but again, there's no cheesy, villainous, monotone voiceover, which I never thought it was that big of a deal, but it drove my dad crazy. but it was like, yeah, like there's ways you can be more cost effective, like you said.
Absolutely. It's like that reminds me because like I just watched, a John Wayne movie, Rio Grande, from John Ford.
Classic.
Oh, classic. It's so and like when I was watching it, I was like, this is so good. Like it's such a good movie. And the funny thing is during some of the fights between the Native Americans and the cavalry, you could tell John Ford had reused some of those same shots of the Native Americans shooting from the mesa. He'd used that about 5 times in movies. But the thing is, you don't care because it's a good movie. The story is good, the script is good. You don't care. And so it's like I agree. Like I don't mind if they want to start doing that a little bit more in Star Trek shows and cut down on their effects and give us more episodes with good writing. Like go for it.
And if they wanted to do something like when The Flash was airing, I looked forward to the Mark Hamill episode every season. We always have one. Why couldn't we do that with Harry Mudd? Why couldn't we do that with T'Pring or Cybok or pick whoever you want? But like, especially if we could get some like A-list heck, I mean, Patton Oswalt's going to be on this week. Let's do a Patton Oswalt episode. I mean, Patton Oswalt's kind of awesome in everything he's in. So there's enough celebrity Star Trek fans. You could easily get somebody, a very high quality actor to come in. I mean, Loxana Troy, we didn't get one necessarily every season, but I'm trying to think. There's at least 5 or 6 in TNG, just about every season, save maybe 1 or 2. And you've got the funny ones like Manhunt, and then you've got the uber serious ones like Half a Life and Dark Page. So
no, I completely agree with you because you do look forward to that. I remember I was the exact same way. I loved the Mark Hamill episodes. They were great. And, and it's like, I think of too, like I watched the BBC show Father Brown, the detective show. And there's an actor who plays kind of the arch villain, Flambeau, is this master thief, and he shows up once every season, and I always look forward to it because it's so much fun. You're going to have a great time, a great heist, some great dialogue between him and Father Brown, and you look forward to it every season. And so it's like I completely agree. Like bring some of those characters, especially Mudd. Why has Mudd not been in Strange New Worlds? This show was built for him. It's like,
yeah, honestly, like he really was like.
And Rainn Wilson has been saying, I want to come back. Like he literally has been saying, bring me back. I will come back anytime. Yeah,
and I mean, Reese Darby kills it and everything he's in. Honestly, that's probably been the best episode this season was his episode. And they know he's a trickster. They never actually have to reveal him. They never see Reese Darby as his looking like Reese Darby, but just have Trelane show up and just be like constantly annoying them. You had your Q episodes in TNG.
No, exactly. And sometimes, you think about it, it doesn't even have to be like a full episode. You can even have a cameo if you want to. Have Trelane come in and annoy Spock for 3 minutes at the beginning of the episode. It's like there's so much you can do. But it's like, yeah, you think back to TNG, the Q episodes were the highlight when he has the mariachi band, on the bridge. It's like, when Picard wakes up in bed and Q is just staring at him, like
he covers up.
Yeah, he covers up. There's so many amazing moments like that. And yeah, I completely agree. Like take advantage of that, especially when you have these celebrity actors, because a lot of these celebrity actors, they're not going to be, pinching pennies over their pay. They're so happy to be in, like, Katie Sackhoff has said she would come and be on Star Trek for free, so it's like a lot of these actors you could get to come on for probably next to nothing. They would just be so happy to be on the show.
Yeah. Like, how great, like, okay, here's an idea for almost an original series-esque style episode. Pike, Spock, and La'an get captured and are put on like an alien game show on this planet. They're stranded, and Drew Carey is the host.
Oh my
You
gosh.
just make give Drew Carey forehead ridges or something.
See, like those ideas are brilliant. Like honestly, we should be writers on this show because that is a brilliant idea. It's
Yeah.
like, because you think about, that the original series, sometimes they had to be creative because they didn't have a lot of money. And so they had to be creative. It's like bring back that level of creativeness, exactly like you said. An alien game show, with Drew Carey would be brilliant, and everyone would be talking about it for decades.
Yeah, and then you can have Wayne Brady being his understudy who's trying to take over the show.
Exactly.
And then Colin Mockery can be a villain, and
Mhm.
Ryan Stiles is 6'6". I mean, he's easily a villain or an alien, excuse me.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, you have the Whose Lines Is Anyway crossover with Star Trek. I mean, it's like the
Yeah.
funniest show of the last 30 years. Everybody would watch that.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Like there's so many options to be able to be creative, and especially like you said, okay, if they like doing comedic episodes, go for it. Just be creative about it, like you said. And have fun with it, and you could do all different types. We have the famous gangster episode, with
That's
Kirk.
such a good episode.
Yeah, it's like
Piece of the action.
exactly. Like, I mean, like, okay, how in the world, honestly, have we not done this yet? Okay, we know that Pike is basically a cowboy. He has a ranch. He talks about wrangling cows. Okay, how have we not had them land on a planet that is basically like the Old West? you know,
This is a travesty, and you're 100% right.
it's like, can you imagine how much fun it would be that they land on this planet? Pike is basically in his element, putting on a cowboy hat. Spock does not know what the hell is going on and is confused. Leon basically completely falls into her element because she gets to be a gunfighter. It's like, and then you have like, you could have, Dr. Mbanga becomes like basically, the old town doctor. I mean, it writes itself. It could be incredible, Oh, you know. So it's like, there's different elements that I'm just like, why hasn't this been done yet? And it needs to be. I might tweet that and say we need an Old West episode in season 4 or 5.
Honestly, like I want that. I want the only reason I want a gangster episode, but
Mhm.
how do you put a hat on Pike's Peak?
Yeah, that alone is a war crime right there.
Yeah, I know. Or the
Mhm.
hat's going to be 30 feet off the ground.
Yeah, we have to give him a top hat or something,
Or you know what they ought to do? Since there's so many jokes about his hair,
Mhm.
somehow like an entity possesses Pike's hair. It becomes like a sentient tribble or something. Like
Oh my
it's
god.
so absurd, it's hilarious. Like again, if you're gonna lean into the comedy, just
Mhm.
lean into it.
Exactly. Yes, just like go all in for it, or or if you wanted to go even more travesty-esque, you have some type of an episode where something happens and he goes bald. It's like, you know,
Hey, you look like that guy from that French wine label, and it's a
yeah.
Picard joke.
Oh my gosh, that would be so funny. Oh my gosh, if they did a Picard joke. Oh my gosh,
Also,
you know.
another random idea. Um, since like the Soong genes are so strong, and everyone appears to look like Brent Spiner, just have this versions of this iteration of Soong show up.
That's actually, you know what? I hadn't even thought of that yet. Like, how have we not had a Soong? That's true. He's been in like every show,
He's been in
basically.
every show, and they all look. I mean, there's the fan theory that the Soongs like manipulated. They're almost like clones or something, but they just have very strong genes, and they all happen to look like Brent Spiner.
Oh, I like Dr. Soong has great genes.
Yeah,
Oh,
no. Then you have Sydney Sweeney cameo as his daughter.
oh my gosh.
That in
Oh,
and of itself would get everybody to watch.
but see, that's the thing. Like, that's the thing that I do really miss about like old style TV from like the 80s and the 90s was that they capitalized on cultural movements, popular actors, and they would bring them in for the show. And it was awesome, that I loved seeing that kind of stuff. But it's like, that's true. Like, we really do need Brent Spiner on like Strange New Worlds in some way. Because I'm trying to think like because he was around in Enterprise so
That was
this would
Eric
be
Soong. Yeah. So there's
yeah
been a
Eric.
Soong. There's Adam Soong in Picard season 2.
Uh-huh.
There's Eric Soong in Enterprise, and obviously
Mhm.
Noonien,
Uh-huh.
Alton. Like there's obviously has to be a Soong in there somewhere. Just have him show up.
No, that is so true. Yeah, they really need, and that would get so many people to watch. Like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. And you never know too. Like we have had, Strange New World confirming fan theories. That would actually be really cool if they confirmed that they were cloning themselves. That would be so interesting.
Or yeah, they were playing with their own genes. Something
Uh-huh.
along those lines. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Because it does make sense that the Soongs view themselves as the smartest people in the universe. So why wouldn't they be manipulating with their genes? You know?
and maybe he wants to track down La'an because he didn't realize she survived the Gorn attack. And
Ooh.
there's your in, because Eric Soong and Enterprise worked. He stole those embryos left over from the eugenics wars. So why couldn't he wants to talk to La'an, and maybe is there a relation? Does her family hate his family? Is there
Ooh.
there again, that's a full episode. You can do the pros
No,
and
you're
cons of genetic engineering, and then like maybe he
no,
wants
you're
to
you're
study Una
right.
too. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
rambling, but
No. You're absolutely right because you think about it that we had the huge, tease in Picard where we saw him working on Project Con,
mhm.
and then we got the little bit of the tie-in basically to that in Strange New World season 2, when Leon and Kirk, are back in time. So yeah, that would make so much sense to have him track her down basically. That would be so interesting because I do have to admit that's the one thing that has irked me a little bit that we have not gotten enough storyline with her and her ancestry because that is such a huge part of who she is. And we've seen that is a big kind of like raw point in her life that I would love to at least have one more episode exploring that a little bit. And who better than to bring Data back? It's like,
Yeah, the guy
you
is
know.
probably one of the most criminally underrated actors.
Oh, he's
Like
so good.
he's been so good in everything.
No, it's true. Like I always just mourn when I see like how typecast he has become because he is a great actor in everything I've seen. Like, he was so good in Independence Day and even as bad as the sequel was, he was fantastic in it.
I
It's
actually
like,
like the sequel. I'm like one of
oh,
3 people on the planet, but I actually like the sequel.
it's one of those things like I really do need to rewatch it because when I saw it, I didn't really like it all that much. I do need to rewatch it because it's one of those issues where my expectations were sky high.
That's fair.
Absolutely. Like I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like it was my most anticipated movie of the year. And so, I really do need to kind of rewatch it a little bit. But I do remember really liking the giant alien, like was it the Queen or something? I remember liking that.
Yeah,
I thought it
something.
was
It was the
cool.
giant one. That's what we can do after Strange New Worlds. Is it really that bad? And we rewatch old sci-fi movies.
Oh, I really like that idea. Let's do that. That's a great idea because I would actually really like to rewatch like Independence Day Resurgence and see, because I would whenever I think of movies that I dislike, I always hope if I go back to rewatch them that I will like them because I a lot of people think I enjoy hating on movies. I actually hate it. I really want to love everything I
Oh,
watch.
same.
So it's like
The only movie I've ever seen that truly, truly deserves to be hated is Alien versus Predator Requiem. There
oh,
is nothing good about that movie.
that is a terrible movie and like I actually like the first one. the
Same.
the second one is a travesty of all things. Oh my gosh. But
Fun
but
Prince Minor fact of the day for you.
okay.
Do you know he actually voiced the Joker on Young Justice?
Really?
Yeah, I was watching it one day. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know that voice. Why do I know that voice? I'm like, it sounds like Data. Google it. Brent Spiner as the Joker. Holy crap.
That is crazy. But now that I think about it, he's actually perfect.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, man, that is crazy. Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that now.
Oh,
Oh
that's worth a rewatch anyway.
man. Oh man, that's just crazy. Well, everyone who's listening, you got a treat. You got basically another episode here of content of us talking about Star Trek and sci-fi in general. So I hope you definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, so I guess as we conclude this episode here, we are now at the point, that I think we're both dreading a little bit here. What is our star ranking of what is Starfleet?
You want me to go first, or do you want to take it?
Well, I kind of feel bad. I've always made you go first on the previous episode, so I will go first. Man, like I said, there's a few things that I love about it. I love the visuals, and that's basically, and I love having a space kaiju, that was awesome. But I think overall, this episode just excelled at mediocrity so much. I think I have to give it a 4 out of 10, and I hate doing that, but I think I have to give it a 4 out of 10.
Wow, you're harsher than I was going to be.
Oh, and I hate doing that. I absolutely hate it.
So my initial reaction was going to be 5 out of 10, but the more
Okay.
I think about it, the more it falls apart. So it's paining me to do this. I think I'm going to go with you, and I'm also going to go 4 out of 10.
Okay. Uh-huh. It's the horrible thing about it is that it's the more you think about it, the worse it gets. Because I
Yep.
remember, like, as I was watching the episode, I was kind of like, hey, this isn't too bad. Like in the beginning, I was like, I was kind of like, okay, there was the issues with the writing, the telltale signs of everything, but like overall, I was very middle of the road. I was like, okay, and then the space kaiju, I was like, this is awesome, but then like after I finished the episode, I was just like, the more I thought about it, I was like, this was really bad. Like this is, I think, the worst of the season. It's like,
Agreed.
I don't know if I can say that. The Adventure Hour was pretty bad.
There was
So
at
I
least
don't
a
know.
few decent performances, but yeah, that it was
Yeah.
also, you're right, it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad, but like you said, there was at least redeeming performances. There was great costuming. There was some moments that were really good in that, where this one just really didn't have a lot of redeeming. So, man, well, for all you listening, you finally, if you've been waiting all this time, you finally got it where we tore an episode apart. Um, it pained us to do it. We didn't want to do it, but you know what? When you're reviewing episodes of a show, sometimes, you have to make sacrifices. So, I hope you all enjoyed this episode for what is Starfleet. Very curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Did you love it? Did you think we were completely off base and this was a great episode, or did you agree with us? So definitely make sure that you like and subscribe, and join us for next week, as we delve into 4.5 Vulcans, and the Vulcan named Doug. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I'm fingers crossed. I'm really hoping for a great episode. If it was along the lines of Wedding Bell Blues, I will be very happy. So so definitely make sure you join us then, and join us next week, and we'll see y'all later.